Dominicast presents Truth Bites, the truth in small bites. The Capital Sins, Overview, and the Sin of Pride. Truth Bite 24, The 7 Capital Sins. We've already devoted a podcast to sin, where it comes from and what it does to us. Yes, sin comes very naturally to us. Right from that sin of our first parents, Adam and Eve, we have all inherited a human nature that is fallen. Naturally speaking, we don't think right, we don't love as we should, and we choose badly. Naturally speaking, our bodies tend to call the shots and our souls suffer. Naturally speaking, our lives are dominated by desires that are forever wanting to run out of control. The result is a battle to live full, happy, truly human lives. The desires that want to push the boundaries are sometimes given the strange name concupiscences. The traditional names for these are concupiscence of the eyes, concupiscence of the flesh, and the pride of life. And as a result of caving into these concupiscences, we find ourselves involved in those big, nasty types of sin called capital sins, which in turn have a lot of other sins satelliting around them. These are the evils we really need to steer clear of if we aspire to any kind of human dignity and integrity here on earth, and if we want a future of eternal happiness. The concupiscence of the eyes is the hard-to-control tendency we have to want every good thing we see and to want more and more of it. It's our inbuilt desire for material things, for money, or the things money can buy, and it breeds the capital sins of avarice and greed, turning us into Scrooges or ridiculous superficial materialists. The concupiscence of the flesh is our tendency to let our basically good desire for pleasure go wild. We're not satisfied with a few simple pleasures in life, but want more and more, well beyond what's good for us. Then we get caught up in the capital sins of gluttony or lust, or that love of doing nothing, in optimal conditions of comfort, of course, sloth. The inbuilt push to make ourselves the centre of admiration, if not the centre of the universe, which some of us have more than others, is the pride of life. Pride, in its right place and proportion, is not a bad thing. People live awful lives when they have no sense of the dignity of their own humanity and no desire to fulfill their potential for real greatness and goodness. But all of us experience the push to be top dog and to be involved in the capital sins of pride, envy, and anger. These 7 capital sins, sometimes called the deadly sins, pride, envy, anger, lust, gluttony, greed, and sloth, are actually very hard to avoid without the special help of God's grace. Sometimes we commit them in rather minor ways, for which we may tend to excuse ourselves. But when they become habits, vices, they grow and grow and can turn us into monsters. We all know some of these human monsters, either in real life, maybe ourselves, or in literature or the media. The key thing to know about these capital sins is that they start off just as desires. We all have desires. We can't live without them. They're built into our human nature by the God who designed it. They're there so that we don't become virtual vegetables. They're there to drive us on towards where we should go and what we should be. Our big problem in dealing with our desires is to know when they are for the wrong things, when they have become ends rather than means, when they are turning us temporarily or permanently into those monsters we sometimes see more easily exemplified in other people. Truth Bite 25. Pride.
the first and deadliest capital sin, at the root of all others, and able to poison even our good acts. People speak of being proud of a job well done, or of their loved ones' achievements. We need to have healthy self-respect for ourselves, although the emphasis on self-esteem today is often completely overblown. The slogan, "I'm okay, you're okay," can be a complete cop-out and make people feel good about themselves even when they shouldn't. The truth is that human beings are fundamentally good, although their choices and actions can be terrible and even evil. So it is not a sin of pride to acknowledge this fundamental goodness in ourselves, although it would be a lie to pretend that what we do with that goodness is always the best. The capital sin of pride is that desire to be better than everyone else in order to be better than everyone else. It can even include desiring to be better than God, an impossibility that some people solve by simply denying God's existence, in theory or in practice, or both. Pride is based on the lie that I am the reason for my own existence, the center of the world, which is generally seen by our culture as okay. Self-assertion and brute competition are seen as basic survival sense. However, the capital sin of pride has nothing to do with sense and a lot to do with insanity, which, after all, is claiming to see something that is not really there. When we are proud, we create a world of our own in which we reign supreme. Every other being, including God, must jump to our command, and when they don't, they automatically become our enemies. Yes, pride is the greatest and most common isolator of human beings. It drives wedges between friends, families, and people in general. It was the first sin to emerge. First off, some of the angels became devils, and then humans became monstrous rebels. How? By taking a truth and twisting it. It is true that we are wonderfully made, but untrue that we can take credit for it. We didn't make our wonderful selves. All that we are and have has been given to us by God. Our first parents, Adam and Eve, wanted to be God, a false aspiration with results that we are still suffering from. There are no prizes for being able to detect pride, pure and simple, in the public atheist's stubborn denial of God, or the dictator's megalomania, or the snobbery of the socialite, or the self-styled intellectual, or the intolerance of certain rights warriors. But what about me? What about you? Are we also infected with this vice? For starters, let's ask ourselves the following. Do we decide how we'll interact with God and when? Do others see us as pushy and dominating? Are we put out when others disagree with us, or fail to notice us, or correct us? Can we be snobbish about family background, or the places that people live, or about what we know and what others don't? Is there anyone to whom we don't lower ourselves to speak? Are we quick to find faults in others and equally quick to excuse them in ourselves? Do we treat conversations as chances to talk about ourselves, or our achievements, or our opinions? Do we tend to seek advice and follow it? Do we use mock modesty in order to gain compliments, or play up our weaknesses in order to avoid loss of face if we should fail? Are we nervous or self-conscious about sharing our gifts? Do we live with a general feeling that we're not thanked enough? In fact, do we do a lot of our good acts expecting acknowledgement, praise, or thanks? The list goes on and on. We don't seem to be able to escape pride in some shape or form. Not surprising, considering the darkened minds and weak wills that have come down to us from our first parents. There's always a solution, but it's a lifelong work, and impossible without God's grace. The first step is to get in touch with reality. This means recognizing the truth about who we really are and who God is. Recognizing, in theory and in practice, that God is the only God, recognizing that we are His children who depend on Him for everything, is a fact that should make us feel deeply relieved and secure, since playing God is not only psychologically exhausting, but incredibly damaging to us and to others. This is humility, which is basically the virtue of honesty and truth. Humble people don't indulge in daydreams about themselves. They acknowledge up front their gifts and abilities, and they acknowledge that they didn't give them to themselves. They also acknowledge their weaknesses, faults, and sins, and are prepared to take responsibility for them. Humility also allows us, for most of the time, just to forget about ourselves altogether and start paying real attention first to God and then to others. But to do this, we need light and strength, which always comes through prayer.